Hello, everybody, and welcome back for another round of World Talks here on TVP World. My name's Don Arleth. EU Ministers of Agriculture and Fisheries meet on the 21st and 22nd of October in Luxembourg. The ministers will discuss fishing opportunities in the Baltic Sea, the International Commission for the Conservation of Atlantic Tuna, the future of the Common Agricultural Policy post-2027, the EU food chain, and trade-related agricultural issues. But there are also, it is interesting for Poland due to the fact that fishing limits for commercial fisheries in the Baltic Sea is set to see a rapid decline, putting fishermen and their livelihoods at risk. Poland plans to fight back, though, and maintain the current quotas or even have them increased. And now joining me to discuss this is Professor Witold Orłowski, Professor of Economics at Witwatersrand University. Hello, sir. Great to see you again. We have this meeting there taking place in Luxembourg, and looks like Polish fishermen are in a bind unless something is done at this meeting. So how much does the quotas, does the EU want to cut these quotas for Polish fishermen?
No, sorry, I'm an economist. I will not be able to give you a detailed information about the quota, how many
Well, then
herrings and so on, Polish. But we may talk about the general issues connected with that, because this is the next step in the, let's say, tensions in Poland that are connected with the introduction of so-called Green Deal, after the farmers that pretty much protested against that, blocking the roads. Now we've got the fishermen. There may be small difference, because in the case of farmers, the Polish farmers were not alone. Actually, the farmers all over Europe have been protesting, especially in the areas in which the agriculture, in countries in which agriculture is not as sophisticated, let's say, as industrialized, but more based on family type traditional farming. And now, in the case of the fishermen, I do not think that the Polish fishermen are part of the Europe-wide protest of fishermen. This is more connected with the specific situation of Poland. The Green Deal is about, first of all, about making Europe and the growth of Europe less hurting the environment. So green in a sense of satisfying the promise to become climatically neutral. The whole European Union is to become climatically neutral until 2050. But in the case of the agriculture and fisheries, as it appears now, the point is that this is only one of the elements of the European Union's policy, and this green policy is the policy of making the production of food much less difficult for the environment. For the farmers as a group, I mean, it meant less pesticides, less chemicals used, and that applies to everybody. But in the case of fisheries, there are some parallel moves, obviously, connected with, first of all, preserving the life in the seas, if you wish. The problem of Poland is that we've got the only sea for the small fisheries is the Baltic Sea, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, there are obviously the big Polish companies that are making fishing, searching for the fishes somewhere in Atlantic and so on and so on. But for the kind of family-based traditional fishery, it is the Baltic Sea. And the Baltic Sea is pretty much a region that is under a big pressure, because the population of all these, animals living in the sea have been pretty much, is pretty much reduced in Baltic. And we've got obviously the Mediterranean, although has got the Mediterranean Sea, although has got the problem, but the Baltic Sea is a special case. Really, the after many centuries of and especially last tens of years of very intensive using of the Baltic Sea. Baltic Sea is more than other seas around Europe endangered by the fall of the population of various species living in the sea and so on and so on. And that's why the limits set on the production of fish in Baltic Sea are tougher than in many other areas. And that's why the Polish fisheries, I'm talking about fishermen, I'm talking about obviously about this traditional fishery that is taking place in the Baltic Sea, are pretty much anxious that the Green Deal for them may mean big troubles.
Right. The Polish fishermen are actually really concerned with how the EU is gathering its statistics, because it's trying to monitor some of these fish populations in various locations, especially in the Baltic Sea. One of the big criticisms from Poland's standpoint is that this is being done maybe a little bit too overcautious, and therefore the quotas that they're putting on these fish and the limits are simply unrealistic.
Well, but we should understand the issue. On the one hand, we've got people that are obliged with the duty to fight for the environment and so on, and somehow they are obviously cautious in telling how much harm the fishing may do to it. On the other hand, we've got fishermen who live out of that, right? And there's always in such a situation, if one side, I mean, the bureaucrats are setting the limits, and the Polish fishermen consider that this is the reduction of the ability to make money for living and so on. There is always a tendency of a certain quarrel, and especially now it is somehow put in the context of the Green Deal. But actually, this issue has been alive even before the Green Deal. The point is, that the Baltic Sea is a very special sea, as you know. It's not very big. Some historians were calling it the Mediterranean Sea of the North, and that's true. But it's much smaller, although, and
it has fewer species of fish as well. It's not quite as abundant as the Mediterranean. Do you think the Polish fishermen, you mentioned how the farmers were successful before the European elections to get some of those new provisions concerning pesticides enacted. So they were successful in this endeavor. Will Polish fishermen this time around, or at least the Polish agriculture ministers that are attending the summit, be able to maintain the current quotas for Polish fishermen or even have them increased as they want?
Well, this is, I don't know exactly, but what I'm sure is that that's in a sense the beginning of the negotiation. The EU is always searching for some compromise. And I guess if Poland is defending very strongly its fishermen, we will get a better deal than what has been proposed initially. Will it mean the increase of the quotas? Well, I am not sure. By the way, you shouldn't ask about that an economist. You should ask the specialist.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll be on my producer for that one. Right. Well, the next few days will be crucial for the future of the European Green Deal as pressure mounts on Ursula von der Leyen to amend two major pieces of legislation adopted back in 2023. One was against deforestation, and the other, which I think is more interesting, is the ban on the sale of internal combustion car engines after 2035. Now, this might be a little bit more up your alley. Do you think that the European Commission will actually heed this advice and maybe amend this provision of the Green Deal? I know it would make a lot of people angry.
I guess here the opposition is pretty powerful. It's the whole automotive industry, first of all the German, but French as well. I mean, the giant industry, this is a giant industry with the firms that have a lot of influence on the internal politics of those countries. So I guess countries like Germany, like France, Italy will very much try to, once again, to find a compromise, not to block the whole story, but most likely to shift it over time, to make it more spread over the time. The European car industry, obviously, should be moving towards more of the electric cars, maybe some hydrogen-powered cars in the future. But in the meantime, I mean, they must survive. They've got a very strong Chinese competition in the electric car business. China controlling a big share of the raw materials necessary to make the batteries for the cars. So the industry has got a say, and the industry is telling the same basically that the farmers have been telling, and now the fishermen are telling. This time it's a car industry telling everybody,
Okay.
slow down. We all want green Europe and the clean air, but that's too radical. And I'm absolutely sure there will be a compromise with shifting the whole issue, not killing it, but making it more spread over time.
Okay, Professor Witold Orłowski, Professor of Economics at Vistula University. Thank you for this discussion. Appreciate it. And that concludes this edition of World Talks. Thanks for joining us, and stay with us for more here on TVP World.